Because there's a lot of knowledge out there, right? A lot of information floating online, going online and whatnot. But I felt it important to come out and to actually deal with the people. Take this knowledge to the people. You know, actually interact with the people. Go to places where our supporters are and show them the love and support that they've been showing us all this time. I have various books, but this is the primary book that I have been promoting on this particular tour. The reason I'm promoting this book is because in this day and time, we talk about doing a lot of things. You know, we just talk about doing a lot of things. And some we talk about building communities, we talk about building villages, we talk about having businesses, we talk about what our children need, we talk about what we need. But one thing that I noticed is that there's very little action. There's very little action towards what people know that they need. They talk about it, but rarely do they act. I come to the realization that before people, us, you know, decide to do things, there's something we need to do first. Before we decide to develop businesses, develop land, develop institutions, we need to first develop ourselves.
That's right.
There's not enough self-development going on, and that lack of development is what keeps us from being able to develop anything else. Part of the reason that we're unable to develop in the realms and on the path of what we already know we need to do, what we've already talked about doing, is because we suffer from a lot of different traumas and triggers that keep us from being able to come together. Because it's not about us individually doing anything. We can have so much success as an individual, but together we can have a lot more success. So I wrote this book. A lot of people are interested in more science. They're interested in nationality. They're interested in the knowledge. But at the foundation of more science, the foundation of the knowledge is the know thyself. If you don't know yourself, then there's no way that you can truly aspire to your higher self or the highest development in yourself. So this book is the higher self, lower self, self-development according to more science. And we talked about earlier, well, what is more science? More science is the knowledge of self. But what is self? Self is not what you see when you look in the mirror. Self is not your bones, your muscles, your eyes, your ears, not even your brain. It might surprise you to know that you have never seen yourself. No matter how much you think you have seen yourself, you have not. The self is an unseen entity. It only operates through this physical body. The self is what you're thinking inside right now. What you're talking back and forth inside right now. The contemplation that's going on. That's the self. And that is what is meant to rule over the body. We all know that we're mental, physical, and spiritual beings, right? But how much time do we give to our physical? How much time do we give to our mental? And how much time do we give to our spiritual? If it's not 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, at least then you're out of balance. That means 1/3 of your day should be spent on developing your physical self, 1/3 of your day should be spent on developing your mental self, and 1/3 of your day at least should be spent on developing your spiritual self. Your spiritual self and your mental self are the true you, and nobody has ever seen it. They've only seen the expression of it in this dimension. Nobody knows who you are until you do what? Act. Either you act by speaking, opening your mouth, or you act by some other kind of way. And yet, most of the people these days, I won't say most because that's probably kind of arrogant. Many of the people these days are not in control of themselves, or I should say not in balance with themselves. Because it's not about being in control unless it's a balanced control. So, let's talk a little bit about the self. Excuse me. In ancient times, you had sayings such as this. Islam, good to see you, Moab. The phrase written on the pyramid, man, know thyself. Aristotle says, knowing thyself is the beginning of wisdom. When the underdeveloped man seeks is outside, what the advanced man seeks is within. That's Confucius. Know the enemy and know yourself. In 100 battles, you will not perish. Sun Tzu. Knowing others is intelligent. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Islam. The Holy Quran of Mecca says, he who purifies it is successful, and he who corrupts it fails. Another word for self, when we're dealing with self, or the science of self, another word for the science of self is psychology, or science of the mind. The mental behavior or characteristics of an individual or group. The study of the mind, and the behavior in relation to a particular field of knowledge. So we can see by these words that the self is an immaterial thing. It's not a thing that is manifest in this third dimension unless you act. Now, in knowing the self, we know and we are taught how many selves are there? 2. Name them.
Higher self and lower self.
So we have a higher self and a lower self. What is the higher self?
Our higher self is the mother virtues and harmonies of life, and grief, justice, mercy, love, and right.
Why y'all whispering? What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of virtues and harmonies of life, and grief, justice, mercy, love, and right.
What is the lower self?
The lower self breeds hate, slander, murder.
Alright, I didn't ask you what it breeds, but go ahead. What does the lower self breed?
Hate, slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything harm.
Now, what is the lower self? You might not be able to say this one all together. What's the lower self?
Reverse, falsehood, manifest.
It's not. What's the lower self? What else about the lower self?
The lower self is rich in kindness, poor and blessing is peace.
What else about the lower self? Lower self is what? Carnal self. Body of desires. It is a reflection of the high self, distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. All of those answers are true. But distorted by the murky ethers of the flesh. What are these murky ethers of the flesh that we speak of? Because we know it's not in bones to think.
Nor is it in flesh to reason.
Nor is it in flesh to reason. So this murkiness comes about in the form of impulses. Impulses. It is the physical impulses that come from a carnal existence on this plane that affect the mind and the decision making right here. So say, for example, you know you're not supposed to eat sugar. You already got diabetes. But you can't help it. You're enslaved to the impulses, so you keep eating, you keep eating, you keep eating. The next thing you know, you're dead. So you know you're not supposed to be running around being promiscuous and having sex out of marriage and all these things. But you can't help it. Why? Because you haven't taken any time to focus on the mental and the spiritual self. You only get stronger at what you're good at. And the lower self is good at those things. Islam? You know why? Because Allah made the lower self good at those things. The two major impulses in the body is sexual appetite and physical appetite. These are made so strong because if we didn't have a sexual appetite, we wouldn't procreate. There would be no human race. And if we didn't have a physical appetite, then same thing. We would starve to death, right? Yet, these impulses, I'll throw this on because it's a little chilly. These impulses are not meant to rule. They're meant to be tempered and used in a reasonable way and governed by the higher self. But, again, how much time are we giving to the higher self? See, if you give all the time to the lower self, what do you expect to get stronger? The lower self. Nothing is going to stop on its own. Newton's law says that everything in motion tends to stay in motion until what? Till it's acted upon by an external force. So if you're not acting to put your lower self in check, it's going to run right over you. And it's going to continue to run right over you until either you or something else stops it. So most of you know about the Circle 7 and things. So I just want to get you to understand we're dealing with the self. And no development on this plane, no successful development is going to occur until we first begin to develop the self. Into the higher self and in alignment with the higher self and in balance with the lower self. Now, we say, well, how do we do this? Right? Because I started out saying that a lot of times we talk and we already know what we need to do. But where we're weak at is the action. We know a lot, but we don't act. The reason we don't act is because we're used to not acting. And so that muscle memory and that mental memory is what's going to take over. So how do we get out of that bag? Whether you go to church, whether you go to the mosque, wherever, you're going to hear something similar, that you need to be a good person, you need to have principles, you need to focus more on that than the other thing. But shoot, alcohol feels good, right? Earth feels good, and indulgence in it sometimes feels good, right? Sexual relations feels good. See, a lot of people are just living for what feels good. They in their root chakra. They haven't even got to the sacral chakra. They right there in their root chakra. Maybe they're at the sacral chakra. They're not at the solar chakra. Right? They're at the stomach and they're right here. Private parts and stomach. So how do we begin to get in control and in balance? And I tell brothers and sisters, in order to do that, you have to suffer. Who wants to suffer? See, that's why it ain't gonna work. Nobody wants to suffer. You see that? I'm talking about developing your higher self. I'm talking about developing that which is in you, which is the divine spark. Which if you're in alignment with that, boy, this world is a beautiful place. There's no such thing as depression. There's no such thing as being crushed in a lot of instances where you lose your house or you lose your car, you lose your woman, and now you're out on the street just drinking and going to the curb. But guess what? You don't want to suffer for the most important thing in your life, but yet you suffer for foolishness every day. Every day. Let's talk about the women. Y'all like to pluck them eyebrows, right? Do all kind of things to hurt yourself in order to look good, right? Right? Some women go far as waxing and do all kinds. But I know pretty much all women at some point, they plucking them eyebrows. Or they plucking some hairs and popping up some other place they don't want nobody to see. Don't that hurt? Don't it hurt? So you suffer through it though, right? You endure it. Why? Why? Why do you pain yourself for something that, what is the goal? You want to look good, right? You want to get a man. You want to just feel good about yourself because you're beautiful, right? Well, you don't want to feel good about yourself spiritually? You don't want to feel good about yourself mentally? Well then, endure a little tiny pain for that. When I said suffer, I didn't say suffer immensely. My point is, brother, you kind of got some muscles on there. You be doing push-ups. Don't them push-ups hurt? No pain, no gain, right? No pain, no gain. We run from pain. We think we're in the place where it's supposed to be pleasurable all the time. And we seek, trying to make our life pleasurable all the time. And that's the problem. So, as we can see, we suffer. We put ourselves through minor pain and endurance. For what? Other purposes. Well, let's talk about spiritual suffering. Minor spiritual suffering. Some exercises that can strengthen your higher self. That can put you in alignment and in a controlled alignment with your lower self. These things I'm talking about, I'll give you 2 exercises. One is prayer and meditation. Right? You say, well, how is prayer suffering? How is meditation suffering? Well, as a Muslim, I'm commanded to make 5 prayers a day. I can combine them, make 3, but I have to make these prayers, and I have to make them consistently at a certain time. That takes a little bit of time out of my day. I could be missing some money, because you know, if you come in, the shops come. Come on in, we have an event, come right on in. No problem. I could be missing some money. In fact, in Islamic countries, when it's time to pray, you have to close the shops down. If I'm a shop owner, and especially if I'm not doing too good, and it's time to pray and I got to shut my shop down, I think that can kind of put a little conflict inside of me a little bit, right? I might think, you know, I need to stay open. But instead, what do? We sacrifice. It takes time out of your day. You might be engaged in something pleasurable, right? Watching a football game, online, doing whatever that we like to do for our pastime. And we just say, no prayer, let it go on by, let it go on by. But yet we're thankful for all the blessings bestowed upon us. So prayer, meditation, taking time out of your day to cater towards your spiritual self. Reading about the self. Reading about the exercises and things that you can do. Reading about the conditions of the self. And see what correlates to what you're going through and what you're dealing with. And lastly, brothers and sisters, which we just completed the holy month of Ramadan. Those of us that were fasting, Eid Mubarak. To those who we were not around to be able to see, to give that greeting. But fasting. Fasting is one of the most powerful ways. How you doing? Fasting is, you come on through there. Shoot. You at home, family. Fasting is one of the most powerful ways to get in control of the self. In Islam, during the holy month of Ramadan, which is not limited to that, we say we fast from sunup to sundown. Nothing too crazy, right? Not even a whole 24 hours, not 48 hours, not a week. From sunup to sundown, but consistently for 30 days. This has the potential, if you're doing it right, to develop spiritual strength. Because freedom begins with no. True freedom begins with no. That means you have to be able to tell yourself no. And if you can't tell yourself no about things that you want to do that start from within yourself, then who's ruling? Who is that won't let you do the things that you seek, that you know would be good for your spiritual growth and development? Oh, gotta make a sacrifice. That's a big one. Because you might like these people. You might even know. Now, I'm not saying separate from those who you like and who you love, but understand that if you've been given a mission, and if you've been given resolve in your heart to do a particular thing, you can't run from it. No one ever promised you that when you find your calling, you wasn't going to have resistance. And we know, without a foe to fight, a soldier never knows his strength. It's up to you to learn how to bring that imbalance. It's up to you to learn how to face that. But let's take it off of external people. Who is it inside you that won't allow you to tell yourself no? What's ruling inside of you that won't allow you to tell yourself no when you know you need to tell yourself no? When you know you need to tell yourself yes. You see? You can't blame it on anybody else. Watch out. You can't blame it on mommy and daddy. You can't say, oh, well, I was raised this way. I had some traumatic experience and all of this. That happens to people. I have had traumatic experiences that I still are temper me today. Especially being off grid and out there with all that silence floors, all kind of stuff going on. But it's beautiful because it gives me a chance to study myself. It gives me a chance to go inside and realize, like, hey, I've been allowing this thing since my youth to mold my perception of how I'm looking at particular things. And I have an opportunity to change it. I have an opportunity to go through that struggle and battle. Maybe I win some, maybe I lose some, but as long as I'm in that battle, I'm going to be able to develop towards the goal of me being able to get in control and be in balance. But if I don't even fight, if I don't even make myself a little bit uncomfortable, then what's going to get stronger? The desire for pleasure. The desire for folly. Ain't nothing wrong with pleasure. But we love to celebrate and we ain't got no victories. Just celebrating for the sake of celebrating. You're supposed to celebrate after some victories, after some accomplishments. We wait till the weekend. It's a celebration every weekend.
Make it to Friday.
Make it to Friday. That's the celebration, huh?
Happy Holy Day.
Hey, happy Holy Day. And that's a shame that it has to be like that. But I feel your sentiment there. Just to make it to Friday. Although I will say, where we're at right now, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Praise Allah. It's always a blessing to make it to a Friday, you know. But environment has a lot to do with being able to hear yourself, growth and development. You know, I came into the city, I've been in the city one day, somebody broke the window. That's why I like the city. Why would I want to live in the city? As soon as I come to it, someone break the window trying to steal something out the car.
Come on.
You see? And that's the environment. Last time I was here, I'm from LA, I wasn't even in LA. But somebody started driving slow by me, and that mad dog started coming out. I started mad dog out. Hold on, wait a minute, what am I doing? What's going on in this environment? Lord, let me get up on out of here. But at the same time, it don't matter what environment I'm in, I still got to demonstrate. So you can't blame environment either. What we used to do is, it was my home in the city was like a sanctuary. You go inside there, it's like Africa, Asia, someone in there totally Islamic. That was a sanctuary. Just can't wait to get home. So even here, you have to make those environments and those safe spaces so that you can actually. It's hard when you're out on the street. You're trying to meditate and somebody bumping sounds and people screaming and fighting and all that stuff. You have to have that safe space. So I'm not going to be long-winded. I just wanted to point out that the self is an immaterial thing. And we need to give it time so that we can develop ourselves. And in doing that, everything will be put in front of us. Because we'll be ready for it. Some of us wonder why we don't have certain things, but some of us probably will never have those things. It's destiny. But some of it has to do with what we're ready for. See, because Allah don't want to give you nothing if He loves you that's going to take you to the curb because you can't handle it. You think Allah will give a crackhead $1 million? He might.
He might.
He got one thing. It may change him, but boy, that crackhead is in danger of overdose as soon as he get it. Right? Now, if he just smoked crack because he was in poverty, didn't have no money, didn't know what else to do, But if he was smoking crack because he likes smoking crack,
That's right.
then when he get that $1 million, he ain't gonna be alive for too much longer. So by not giving him that $1 million, that's mercy from Allah. Now you may not be smoking crack, but you're smoking something. You might not be smoking weed, but you're smoking something. Even if it's your own ego, you're smoking something. I don't know what your brand or manner of smoke is. That's for you to figure out. But all I know is, as we develop and we begin to be more moderate, and just like fasting, I save a whole lot of money during the month of Ramadan. Boy, you know, I have money in my pocket because I'm not spending it on food.
No, that's right.
I'm not spending it on other extracurricular activities.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So, if I wanted to change the trajectory of my economic situation, all I had to do was fast. Who knew that spirituality was tied to our economic situation? Noble Ali said that a beggar nation cannot, and I'm paraphrasing, attain to the highest aspects of spirituality. So we see that economics even is connected with our spiritual nature. If we wanted to collectively do things together, because it's easy to do stuff collectively, but we have to deal with the work inside. Let's be honest. It's because of what's inside that we don't have what was being developed here in the first place. Noble Ali said, it is a sad weakness in us that we have withheld the very support that would cause our businessmen and women of our race and nationality to have great success in business. And even worse yet, have joined in condemnation of them when these businesses have failed. It's a sad weakness in us. And it's a cycle that keeps going over and over and over and over again. But we want support. Everyone wants support, right? Let's understand that we are a community. We can do great things by ourselves. But we can do amazing things together. But we first have to align with each other. And that cannot truly happen until we first go inside. Find out what's important, make those decisions, and then come to the table and reset. Islam? All right, so I'll leave you how I came in the humble words of peace. Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, brothers and sisters.